that's the sort of thing. You know, I met a couple in St. Peter's while going house to house. And the gentleman said to me, Chesley, I don't need my wife and the pap. What I need is my wife to get a pension. So I paused. I said, what did your wife do? He said, she was a homemaker. She was a homemaker. And I paused yet again. And I said, you know, the man is right, you know. If you're talking about stronger, safer nation, right, how come we don't want to compensate those who stayed home and look after the young and vulnerable? And I simply said, every single mother, every person who is a homemaker, all the women's rights group should be advocating for something like this, that the people who stay home so that the male can go and work and so on and look after kids, they should be simply saying, listen to me, this is work as well, work in the home, and we want these people to get a non-contributory pension, and therefore we want them to be so compensated. Even if it's the same $500, don't call it the PAP like it's discretionary. Call it a pension like they have earned it, and therefore they will live in more dignity.
Let's move on.
Those are some of the things that
Let's
we
move
want
on,
to see in
Chesley.
this country.
Let's move on. Let's go to the board. I want to come back and ask you something very, very serious about Nevis.
No problem.
But let's play this. Let's play this.
The leadership of this great PAM party now lies in the hands of the Honorable Sean Kenneth Richards. I have seen this young man from humble beginnings in Sandy Point at work, both in opposition and in government.
Yep.
And I say today with no fear of contradiction that Sean has kept the promise. How do I know? How do I know? I know because I have had a front row seat to the unfolding of our recent history. While there are many who now try valiantly to pass off fantasy as fact and try to rewrite our history, even as we who have lived it still are alive to tell it, I present to you today some irrefutable facts that I suggest prove my argument that Sean Kenneth Richards and the People's Action Movement are the rock upon which Team Unity now stands. You see, my friends, it was Sean who was one of the principal architects of Team Unity. When the Labour Party-led government of Dr. Denzil Douglas cast out Dr. Timothy Harris from its midst, and the valiant and noble Sam Terence Condon, then Deputy Prime Minister, resigned in support of Dr. Harris, it was Sean and Pam that provided a ray of hope in St. Kitts. The Concerned Citizens Movement, which I am now privileged to lead in Nevis, had a long history over the decades of refusing to align with any political party in St. Kitts. It is I who had the responsibility of reimagining CCM as part of a broader national construct called Team Unity. We signed two important foundational documents for Team Unity. The Charleston Accord was drafted by me and was signed on the courthouse steps in Charlestown before a massive crowd. I am sure some of you were in Charlestown that evening. That Charleston Accord was signed by Dr. Timothy Sylvester Harris, leader of the People's Labour Party, Vance Winkworth Amory, then leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement, and yes, Sean Kenneth Richards, the leader of the People's Action Movement. The second document was signed at the Red Cross Conference Room, again in Charlestown, and again signed by the three leaders of the tripartite Team Unity arrangement. These documents and the discussions around them provided a blueprint for governance under Team Unity government and formed the core basis of how a Team Unity government would function. They were designed, brothers and sisters, to ensure mutual respect and cooperation between the three political parties and between the two islands of St. Kitts and Nevis. These documents evidence the pact that was formed between PLP, CCM, and PAM. The evidence, the promise made by each party and by each party leader to each other. But even more than that, the evidence, the promise that we made to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay, let's hold it there. Chesley, I want to ask you something important that is really on my heart. And before I ask you, let me remind the listeners, or say to those who just might have joined us, tomorrow God Spare Life at 10 o'clock in the morning. Mark Brantley will be here with me for 1 hour from 10 to 11. But Chesley, over the years, we have not seen any real serious movement to stabilize or create a good friendship with Nevis. Timothy Harris failed along the way by saying that we gave them more from nothing. They never used to get anything, now we gave them more. But he has never talked about the real issue, is their rightful share. Would it bring comfort to you for PAM to win enough seat to form an alliance with the CCM? And would you be a part of a government that see to it that for the first time, Nevis genuinely get their right?
Again,
Okay, I got you.
Yes. Mr. Jupon, it is time for us to get it right when it comes to Nevis. I have been trying my utmost to let the people know, ever since I returned to the Federation in 2002, to let people know that I have a passport which says St. Kitts and Nevis. I used to tell people it is the same passport that Stuart Williams and Urinaka Morton travels the world with when they play for the West Indies. It is the same passport. And I used to go further and say, if our great footballers came out of Keon and the great cricketers come out of Nevis, we are still one country. And I used to say out of Craddock Road or Government Road, wherever it is that they come from, it's still the same passport. When I started being here on WINN FM, one of the major topics used to be secession. And I told my good friend Oral Martin that when I get home, I am going to kill the talks about secession, because I didn't think that some of the people who were talking about secession understood secession the way that I understood it, having got my education in Canada, where there was a secessionist movement in terms of Quebec and in French Canada and English Canada. So therefore I understand the issues surrounding secession and self-determination and so on. And I was adamant that I wanted to live in a country called St. Kitts and Nevis. I wanted to be just as much from Nevis. I'm proud of Nevis. I want to be as much a part of Nevis.
Have you heard of the book? Have you heard of the book Witherbound by Sir Probin Innes?
Witherbound. I have all of Sir Probin's books. I have Whitman Brown's books. I have all of Washi's books. I have them there. And therefore, I am basically saying to you that these guys have articulated things. And I have always said to Sir Kennedy and to Richard Keynes and to even Michael Powell, gentlemen, you all have to write. You all can't let people rewrite history. You all can't just let history go idly by. It is your version, and people will be able to objectively take it up, dissect it, slice it, take it apart, put it back together, because you took the time to articulate it and put it in writing. And I encourage all of them to write, because they were the founding members of, and I was fortunate enough to be able to have conversations with them. And you always want them to put things that went on in writing. So to answer your question about fair share for Nevis, it might seem like a tough question to answer, but because I don't think, I can't see why it is not the right thing to do. I'm looking and simply saying, why is that such a hard thing to understand? That it is important. A matter of fact, let me go further.
Why Timothy?
When you're
Why
talking about
Timothy have to
equity,
say they never used to get nothing though versus
but
so much now?
that is the point. The point is you want to measure what is supposed to be. When you have the balance, the balance in the St. Kitts Nevis Constitution is not about equality. Because I tell people sometimes when you're dealing with equality, you get it wrong. If I said that it is equal for everybody to walk up the steps, what happened to the guy who has no feet? You understand? You want him to walk up the steps too? I believe in equity. I believe in equitable share. And sometimes that means that the person who doesn't have anything at all must get more to be put on a proper footing. And therefore, if you left Nevis behind for many years, sometimes that means that Nevis must get more. I mean, if you're talking fire engines and St. Kitts have 7 and Nevis have 1, maybe if you get 3, you need to give Nevis 2 and St. Kitts keep 1. That is the sort of thing you need to know and understand, that sometimes an equitable share means that the person who is the minority in the relationship, and that's what I really want to come to, the balance in our constitution is the protection of the minority population from the tyranny of the majority population.
You know what?
That is why Nevis has its own local assembly.
You know what I'm scared about? What if Labour were to win 6 seats? What happened to Nevis?
I would
because Labour don't have no love for Nevis.
I don't even abuse and disabuse my I don't even abuse my mind with those kind of thoughts. Because to even contemplate anything like that is to abuse my mind.
Do I say he want them win 6?
Well, that's a want, and therefore that's a want, and I have no problem with a want. But the reality of the situation is that they're not going to win 6 seats, and therefore it is our election to lose. We are going into this election with the majority of seats. We have the majority of the incumbent seats.
So it will be comforting to you to be in a government to make sure that Nevis finally get what they deserve.
There must be higher purpose to life, and therefore I'm not going into government to be the same old.
Praise the Lord.
I'm going in, there's going to be a paradigm shift in understanding. I am going into government to put things that were wrong right. I'm going into government to make sure that we articulate a better course, not just for St. Kitts and Nevis, but it must transcend throughout the entire Caribbean. There must be higher purpose to what you're doing. I am not going in to government to deal with Chesley Hamilton's ambition. I'm going into government because I want Nevisians to get their fair and just allotment of what belongs to them. This is what is right.
Praise the Lord.
I don't want to just build any old society. I want to build a just society.
Hold on. Time. We got 12 minutes to go. Let us play a minute of this, and I come back. I want to ask you something else important.
Yeah. SP. Patrice again. Hey, I know you're watching Ocean walking out for way. I know you're seeing what he bringing for you. Fixing up SP in many ways. Oh yeah. Sean, we love you, and I could tell you love us too. We feel you, we could feel your loving pushing through. Just know we vote for you. You need to like.
Chesley, the person who sing this song, is from overseas. This song sound real nice. Who this voice is?
That is SP. What is it?
Go to the mic a bit. Is somebody from St. Kitts or overseas?
That's overseas.
Oh, this sweet. Let's go back to it.
Up the playfield from way. Light it up. Give the roads them from way. Build it up. Build new stations from way. Build it up. You know we voting for you. Land team unity by background. Money pay back. House build up. School fix up. Sean care from way. Sean care from way. SP like you like this. Just like this. We like you like this. Just like this.
Well, those of you who are listening to WINN FM this morning, I'm telling you, I have every confidence that Pam would win the election along with CCM. But I want to read something on page 6 from witherbound from so probing innis, which many of the young people in St. Kitts should grab a hold of this book and read it, especially you young labor rights, and understand how important it is to treat Nevis with the utmost respect, and God will love us more. Remember in Proverbs 14:34, the Bible says righteousness exalts a nation. Sin bring it down. It's time for St. Kitts and Nevis. Imagine I can't get on and ZIZ, and I am a nominated member running in this election in number 6. $20,000 I took from my account to spend on ZIZ to show up Patches and Timothy and the Governor General and in a national station, but I can't speak on ZIZ up to now. What's going on in St. Kitts and Nevis? Let's go to Sir Probins in his book. In page 6, it says, The Roots of Jealousy. It has become fashionable in recent years to project St. Kitts and Nevis to the world as the sister islands of the Caribbean. However, a study of the history of relation between the two neighboring islands reveals that their differences are deep and long-standing and cannot be dismissed as merely sublime jealousy. Almost from the moment that St. Kitts and Nevis were settled by Europeans in the 1620s, their relationship have been characterized by rivalry, envy, or jealousy. Attitude bonds of these relationships have persisted to the present day, and it is difficult to see any lasting improvement in the future. Chesley, the computer giving you 5 minutes. I want you in your 5 minutes wrapping up. Give me your thoughts about Sir Probin in his thoughts on the jealousy between St. Kitts and Nevis. Why the hospital could not be completed in Nevis? Why $60 million could not have been given to develop geothermal? All to you, Chesley.
Mr. Jupan, jealousy, grudge, jealous, and envy are 3 words that I always say are affecting us in bad ways. I am going to say this. Where was Joseph in France born? There's some things that we do and we don't think. And prejudice any place, jealousy any place, is jealousy anywhere. It's like a cancer. It's not going to stay one place. It's going to spread. And that is why when you look at our history and you see that one of our national heroes was born in Dominica, yet Carlton, no Dominican could ever become prime minister or even run for parliament or be nominated to parliament. I find that is an inconsistency in terms of who we are. When you look at the Fitzroy Bryant College, and you realize that Fitzroy Bryant was born in Antigua, Joseph in France was born in Nevis. I think if memory serves me right, that St. John Payne was born in Anguilla. These are people who contributed to our country. Yet we are at a point where we're simply saying that no one from elsewhere can contribute to our country at that level again. I may agree with you if you say, listen to me, you have to be born in St. Kitts to become prime minister. But I don't totally agree that you want my vote, but you're telling me that I can't be elected to office. And therefore, I those are things that bothers me, and I would advocate for our immigrant population to come forward and be allowed to participate at the highest level.
Yes.
They are contributing to this country. They have chosen this country, many of them. They are law-abiding citizens. They have come here. They have immigrated. We go to elsewhere and participate at the highest. I mean, one of my degrees was signed by Oscar Peterson, that the great pianist who was born in St. Kitts, but made his biggest contribution to Canada. There are things like that. Alexander Hamilton left here in Nevis and went to St. Croix and on to the United States and wrote 52 of the 80 odd also Federalist papers that gave them their democracy. We have contributed around the world, and therefore we were allowed to contribute at the highest level. So I am saying we want to have the full participation of Nevisians and Kittitians contributing towards this country moving forward. Mark Brantley would say at all times, any little boy or girl born in Brown Hill must aspire to the highest office in this federation. And I do believe in that. Any little boy or girl born in Kenyan should be able to say they want to be Chief Justice, or they want to be Prime Minister, or Governor General, or President, whichever one we will have in the future. And that is what I want for my people. I want them to say, listen to me, if Chesley could be that, I could be more, I could be better. I want to achieve more than he has, and that is what I have sacrificed
So Chesley,
to do.
As we wrap up, would you be able to come next Thursday, because it's going to be busy, because I move up Big Lies to Wednesday, because remember there's no program on Friday. Friday is election day. Do you think you'll be able to come?
I will be here, Mr. DuPont. I will be here because I come here as part of my commitment to the people, as part of my commitment to you, that I will come and share my views.
And remember, you have to come on Thursday.
I will. And I've brought along the gentleman here to make sure that he always remind me of things that I have to do, and I keep my schedule. I told you I was going to be early this morning, and I was here early because he made sure that my phone kept buzzing and ringing, and therefore if I even went to sleep after midnight last night after the wonderful meeting in Market Street, that I was up early this morning and drove myself here to be with the people and to share with your audience.
So let's wrap it.
I'm wrapping it by telling the good people of Constituency 8 that great and better representation has come. And therefore, on the 5th, to go out and vote for the hat, put that little X in the box next to the hat with next to the name of Chesley Hamilton in the because Liberation Day, Freedom Day, is the 5th of August 2022, when we can simply move forward with PAM and CCM, one movement, one federation under one God.
Thank you, Chesley. Thank you very much. In Matthew chapter 5, I just have a minute and a half before morning devotion. It says in verse 3, happy are those conscious of their spiritual need. Verse 4, happy are those who mourn. 5, happy are the mild-tempered. Happy are those hungering and thirsting for righteousness' sake. Happy are the merciful, since they will receive mercy. Happy are the pure in heart, since they will see God. Happy are the peacemakers, since they will be called sons of God. Happy are those who have been persecuted for righteousness' sake, since the kingdom of the heavens belong to them. Last but not least, happy are you when people reproach you and persecute you, and blindly say every sort of wicked things against you for my sake. Rejoice and be overjoyed, since your reward is in heaven. I cannot understand why so many indifference happening to me. I am a register. I register to run in this election. Still I can't get no time on ZIZ. Patches don't pay ZIZ, but he on ZIZ for 2 years. If Patches does pay ZIZ, let him carry me to court. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to stand up facing democracy in this country. I have 45 seconds. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, God Spare Life, 10 to 11, don't miss it. Mark Brantley, the Premier of Nevis, will be right where Chesley is sitting, and I'll be here in Studio 1 to ask him some important questions that on my mind for years to ask him. I am looking forward for that. I hope God will spare both of us life. Look for Mark Brantley tomorrow. Until you hear from me again, Carlton Dupont saying bye, and I'm kindly asking you, please continue to support this program. And if you could assist me, do it. But if you can't, that's okay. Morning devotion right now.
I come to the garden alone. All the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God is close.
A pleasant good morning, my sisters and brothers. Welcome to Morning Devotion on WINN FM. Our reading for today comes from Luke chapter 10, reading from verse 38 through 42. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." The word of the Lord. Jesus was invited by Martha to visit her home, and immediately she starts busying herself with providing food and drink for her guest. As any good host or hostess would,